My name is Hannah Rowan, and I want to tell you what happened at my nephew's 10th birthday party. A 12-second video almost destroyed my relationship with my entire family. That video made me look like a cruel and ungrateful person. But the truth was very different. I had my own footage that proved exactly what my sister-in-law had been doing behind my back. When I arrived at the party that afternoon, everything looked normal. Kids were running around. Balloons were tied to the fence. My parents were sitting by the picnic table, smiling. Then Nora walked toward me. She hugged me a little too tightly and whispered, "Try to behave today, Hannah." She said it with a smile, but her eyes had a strange confidence in them. She acted like someone who already knew the outcome of the day. My brother Caleb stood behind her, looking nervous and tired, like he had been coached on what to expect. I hugged my nephew Jonah, who threw his arms around me and said he was glad I came. He had no idea how tense things were. He only cared that I showed up, and that meant something to me. Everyone was relaxed until Nora clapped her hands and called for attention. She stood in front of a projector screen and said she made a special video for the family. She looked right at me when she said it, as if the video was meant for me more than anyone else. I felt a cold feeling in my stomach. I did not know what she had planned, but I knew it was not good. I had been dealing with her trouble for years. That day, she finally showed everyone the full extent of it. And when she did, she thought I would break. She had no idea I had been preparing for this without even knowing it. The truth was coming, and it was going to change everything. Before that birthday party, I had been dealing with Nora's behavior for years. She came into our family with a smile and a perfect act personality. Everyone loved her at first. She brought desserts to gatherings, complimented people, and acted polite. But behind that friendly face, she was controlling, jealous, and always desperate for attention. Whenever I spoke, she would twist my words in a small way. If I disagreed with her politely, she would tell people I had an attitude. If I helped with something, she would tell my mother I was trying to take over. She acted like the victim of every situation, even when she caused it. My mother, Marilyn, always wanted peace in the family. She would believe Nora before she believed me, because Nora spoke with confidence. My father, Paul, hated arguments, so he often said we should let things go. This created the perfect space for Nora to shape the story however she wanted. And she did. Caleb, my brother, changed the most. He used to call me for advice and laugh with me about simple things. After he married Nora, he became distant. When I asked him what changed, he said, "Nora feels like you judge her." I never judged her. She just made sure he believed that I did. The biggest problem was that Nora behaved differently depending on who was watching. Around others, she acted sweet. When no one paid attention, she made sharp comments or played tricks that made me look rude. Over time, it wore me down. I started noticing a pattern. Every time I left a room, she quickly whispered something to my mother. My mother would look at me differently afterward. Every time I spoke, Nora exaggerated my tone to make it sound harsh. It was never enough to cause a major fight, but it happened often enough to change how people saw me. Things reached a turning point about a year before the party. I had told Jonah not to climb on the back of the couch because he almost fell. Later, Nora told my mother I yelled at him, which was not true. My mother asked if I was stressed. My father asked me to calm down even though I had done nothing wrong. That night, I realized something important. I was being blamed for things I never did. I needed proof of what was actually happening in that house. My parents had indoor cameras for safety, so I asked my father if I could adjust the cloud backups since he did not know how. He agreed without thinking much of it. That allowed me to save recordings of normal family interactions. At first, I only caught small things. Nora telling Jonah I was too emotional. Nora complaining to Caleb about me. Nora changing stories slightly to make herself look good. They were tiny details, but they showed her real personality. Then things got worse. I recorded her practicing excuses in front of her phone. I caught her twisting facts on purpose. I even heard her say she wanted to make sure everyone saw me as the problem. By the time the birthday party came around, I was tired of the lies, but ready for the truth. I walked into that backyard hoping for a simple celebration. I did not expect her to play a video designed to humiliate me. I also did not expect that the recordings I saved would become the strongest proof I could ever show. When she pressed play on her video, she thought she had full control. What she did not know was that I finally had the truth, and that truth was waiting for its moment. If you're enjoying this story, make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. When Nora called everyone over to the projector and said she had a special family video, I felt my stomach tighten because the tone in her voice did not match the cheerful smile on her face. She acted like a host on a stage, holding the remote as if the entire party depended on her performance. And everyone went along with it. Kids grabbed cupcakes, adults found seats, and the backyard settled into a quiet circle around the screen. I sat near my parents so I could see their reactions, because after years of dealing with Nora's behavior, I knew they believed whatever story they heard first. The video began with sweet moments from old holidays, school events, and birthdays. People laughed and pointed at the screen, enjoying the memories. But the whole time, Nora kept glancing at me, not at the video, watching for my reaction. And the way she did it made it clear she had been waiting for something she believed would finally put me in my place. When the clips moved from old home videos to recent moments in my parents' house, I felt a rush of heat in my chest because I knew she had access to the house cameras, and she had spent months twisting small situations into big problems. She added little subtitles to the clips that changed the meaning completely. In one recording, I was helping my mother cook and said, "You do not have to do everything yourself, Mom." But Nora added subtitles that read, "You never do anything right, Mom," making me look rude and ungrateful. My mother's face tightened, and even though she whispered that she knew I didn't say that, I could see the doubt forming. Another clip showed a moment where Jonah climbed dangerously on the back of the couch, and I spoke firmly to him to be careful. But Nora edited the tone to make me sound harsh and unkind, and relatives around me started murmuring things like, "Why would she talk like that?" And "That is not nice." And with every whispered comment, I felt my reputation slipping further away. Nora watched all of this with a smug, quiet smile, enjoying the confusion she created. She even walked behind me and squeezed my shoulder lightly as if to comfort me, whispering, "Remember, this is all in good fun," and her voice carried a cruel edge. Then the screen went black for a moment before flashing to a close-up of my face. My voice played loudly across the backyard, but it was not my real voice. It was my words cut apart and rearranged from old voicemails and phone calls, spliced into a sentence I never said. On the screen, my voice said, "I can't stand this family. They always judge me. I wish I didn't have to deal with any of them. Especially Jonah." The moment that line played, everything stopped. No one moved, no one breathed. My mother covered her chest and looked at me with wide eyes. My father stared with a disappointed expression that stabbed directly into my gut. Aunt Linda whispered, "I never thought Hannah would talk like that." Even the children looked confused, but the person who looked hurt the most was Jonah. He turned around slowly, his face pale, and asked, "Aunt Hannah, did you say that about me?" My heart dropped. I shook my head and told him, "No, sweetheart, I promise I did not." But Nora stepped in front of him quickly and said, "It is okay, Jonah. Sometimes adults say things they do not mean." She acted gentle, but every word she said was meant to trap me deeper. Caleb still would not look at me. He stood stiffly, staring at the ground, like he did not know where to place himself, but his silence was as loud as everyone else's judgment. The entire crowd believed the fake clip, because Nora had spent years shaping the idea that I was emotional, dramatic, and difficult. I could feel the weight of every lie she ever told pushing down on me, but I did not cry or yell. Something changed inside me. Instead of breaking, I felt a calm enter my body, the kind of calm that comes right before taking back control. I realized the time for staying silent was over. I stood up, walked past the murmuring relatives, and headed toward my bag without rushing. Eyes followed me with suspicion, confusion, and disappointment. Nora watched me with a sudden flicker of worry, like she sensed something was about to backfire. When I reached into my bag and pulled out my tablet, the entire backyard went quiet again. For years, I had been blamed for things I never said or did. For years, my voice had been the one people questioned. But now, finally, I had something she could not twist. I had the truth. When I lifted the tablet from my bag and stood in front of the entire backyard, something inside me shifted from fear to clarity, and for the first time in years, I did not care about pleasing anyone or avoiding conflict. I cared about the truth. Every face in the yard was turned toward me, waiting to see if I would defend myself with anger or retreat the way Nora always expected. But I did neither. I walked past her and stood where she had been standing moments earlier, right beside the projector table, and the confidence in my steps made her take a small step back. She tried to block me with her body, holding her arms tight across her chest, and said in a firm voice that cracked a little, "Hannah, this is not the time to start something. It is Jonah's birthday. Do not ruin this." Her smile had vanished, and the tension in her voice showed she felt her control slipping. I looked at her calmly and said, "I am not ruining anything. I am correcting it." The quiet that followed was heavy, and even the kids playing in the grass stopped running. My father was the first adult to break the silence. He stood with effort, like he had made a decision he wanted everyone to hear, and said, "Let her speak." My mother nodded, clutching her sweater close to her chest. "Yes, Hannah, show us what you want to show." Their voices gave me strength. Nora's expression tightened as she turned toward my brother for support. But Caleb stepped away from her and said, "Let her talk." The way he said it made Nora's face flash with confusion and fear. She had expected him to defend her, as he always did, but something in him had shifted too. I connected my tablet to the projector, and the screen lit up again. I could hear small whispers moving through the crowd, soft questions like, "Does she have something?" And, "What is she about to play?" Nora leaned closer to me and whispered sharply, "You do not know what you are doing. You will embarrass yourself." I did not look at her. I pressed play on the first clip. The video showed my parents' kitchen from 3 weeks earlier. My mother was chopping vegetables for dinner, and Jonah was sitting at the table drawing. Nora stood near the counter with her phone in her hand. The audio was clear and untouched. She bent down toward Jonah and said, "Remember, sweetie, if Aunt Hannah sounds upset, it is not your fault. She gets overwhelmed easily." That simple sentence had been the root of months of misunderstanding. People in the yard shifted uncomfortably. I paused the video and addressed the crowd. "Nora told my mother that I yelled at Jonah that day. This is what actually happened." Before Nora could speak, I played the next clip. This one showed her pacing the kitchen on the phone, complaining about me. The audio captured her saying, "Hannah always twists everything. She has a problem taking responsibility. I am tired of covering for her." Several relatives looked at each other, realizing they had heard similar comments from her in private, and their faces showed a mix of betrayal and recognition. Nora raised her hand as if to stop the video. "This is taken out of context," she said loudly, but her voice sounded shaky, not confident like earlier. I ignored her and played the third clip. This one was the turning point. It showed Nora alone in her living room, practicing lines in front of her phone, rehearsing what she planned to say if anyone questioned her after the birthday video. She spoke clearly to her reflection. "I will say I made the video with love. I will say Hannah reacted in a rude way. People always feel sorry for the calm one." Her voice was not frantic. It was smooth, calculated, and cold. The crowd reacted immediately. They whispered, gasped, and stared at her in disbelief. Caleb's face turned pale, and he whispered, "You practiced lying." Nora took a step toward him and said, "Caleb, that is not what you think. I was practicing an apology." He shook his head and stepped back. I took a breath and spoke to everyone. "There is one more clip you need to see." This final recording was taken in my parents' living room. Nora was sitting on the couch, talking to her sister on speakerphone. Her voice was sharp and full of frustration. She said, "I am done with Hannah playing the innocent role. This video will show the real her. Once people see it, they will finally understand. I have been right all along." Her sister asked, "What about Caleb?" And Nora replied with a cold laugh, "He will believe whatever I tell him." When that clip ended, the yard fell silent in a way I had never experienced. Nora's face twisted with panic as she looked around desperately for support. But no one moved. She was alone. And for the first time, she understood she no longer owned the story. The backyard felt completely still after the last clip finished playing. It was the kind of silence that lands on a room when people realize they have been wrong for a long time and can no longer pretend otherwise. I stood in front of the projector holding the tablet against my chest, feeling my heartbeat slow into something steady and strong. For once in my life, I did not feel like the outsider in my own family. I felt seen. The truth had taken the space that lies used to fill. Nora looked around with wide, searching eyes, trying to find even one person who might defend her, but every face she met was cold or stunned or full of disappointment. She had always been able to charm her way through trouble before, but this time her tricks had run out. My mother was the first to step toward her. Marilyn had always kept her voice soft and warm, but now she spoke with a calm that cut deeper than yelling ever could. She said, "Nora, I trusted you. I welcomed you into this family. I believed every word you told me about Hannah. How could you do something like this?" Nora opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She looked like she wanted to cry, but could not force the tears because her pride would not let her. Instead, she shook her head and said, "I did not lie. I was trying to help. Hannah needed someone to be honest with her." My father stepped forward next. Paul had never taken a strong stand in his life. He avoided conflict, avoided arguments, and avoided choosing sides. But now he looked tired and deeply hurt. "That was not honesty," he said firmly. "That was cruelty. You humiliated my daughter in front of her own family." His voice shook with anger he had held back for years. Nora tried to look wounded. "I did not humiliate her. She embarrassed herself." But her words carried no weight anymore. Caleb moved closer to me, not to confront Nora, but to put distance between himself and the person he thought he married. His face had the pale, stunned look of someone who had just watched the floor disappear beneath him. "Nora," he said quietly, "I defended you every time someone had concerns. I believed you when you said Hannah was dramatic or jealous. I believed you when you told me she was trying to create problems." He looked up and met her eyes. "But you lied to me. You lied to everyone." Nora stepped toward him, her voice rising. "I did this for us. I did this because she has been ruining things for years." Caleb shook his head slowly. "No, Nora. You did this because you wanted power. You wanted control." She saw the change in him, and her face shifted into panic. "You are choosing her over me," she said, pointing at me like I was some threat she needed to block. "You always defend her. You never defend me." Caleb stood straighter. "I am not choosing sides. I am choosing the truth." That line broke whatever hope Nora still had. She spun toward the rest of the family, trying to gather sympathy. "You are all letting her turn you against me. You know I am the one who plans everything. I take care of the parties. I keep everyone organized. You would be lost without me." The words sounded desperate. Aunt Linda crossed her arms and said, "Parties do not excuse lies." Uncle Dave added, "This was a setup, a cruel one." One by one, relatives who used to smile at everything Nora did now took a step away from her. The distance between her and the rest of us grew, until even Jonah's birthday decorations felt like they were creating a barrier around her. Then the moment that changed everything happened. Jonah came out from behind his aunt and walked slowly over to me. He looked confused and sad, and far too young to carry the weight of what had happened. He reached for my hand. "Aunt Hannah, I know you did not say mean things about me," he said softly. "I know you didn't." I bent down and hugged him, feeling tears sting my eyes for the first time that day. "Thank you," I whispered. "You are a good kid." Behind us, Nora snapped, "Jonah, come here right now." Her voice was sharp enough to cut the air. My father turned toward her and said one word that hit harder than my entire presentation. "Enough." And with that, something inside her seemed to break. She took a few steps back, pressing her hands to her forehead. "I cannot believe this. You are all crazy." But no one argued with her. No one reached for her. No one tried to soothe her. Caleb finally took a breath and said, Jonah and I are going to my parents' house. We need to think about what happens next." Nora stared at him in shock. "You are leaving me?" He looked at her with sad, tired eyes. "I am leaving the lies." The words landed like a door closing. Nora reached for him, but he stepped back. Her world was no longer under her control. The show she had built fell apart because the truth had finally been given a stage. And for the first time in years, I felt free. After Caleb took Jonah's hand and led him toward the house, the backyard remained quiet in a way I had never heard during any family gathering. It felt like the air had changed, as if the truth had finally pushed out every lie that had been filling the space for years. People lingered in small groups, whispering about what they had seen, shaking their heads at the thought of how long Nora had manipulated the family. I stayed where I was for a moment, letting the feeling sink in. I was not shaking. I was not crying. I was steady, and that was something I had not felt in a long time. My mother approached me first. Her eyes were red, but she did not look upset with me. She looked upset with herself. She reached for my hands and held them tightly. "Hannah, I am so sorry," she said. "I cannot believe I let her twist things for so long. I should have listened to you. I should have trusted my own daughter." I squeezed her hands and told her, "It is all right. You see the truth now. That is what matters." But inside, part of me finally released years of hurt I had been pretending did not exist. My father joined us, and his face was still hard with anger. "Not at me, but at Nora. She used our home," he said quietly. "She used our cameras and our trust. I do not understand people who behave like that." Coming from my father, a man who avoided conflict all his life, those words meant more than he knew. Relatives approached one by one. Some apologized. Some admitted they had seen signs but never wanted to believe them. Others thanked me for showing the real truth. I accepted every apology with calmness, not because I had forgotten the pain of being doubted, but because carrying that bitterness would only give Nora's lies more power. I refused to let her take anything else from me. Eventually, the guests started leaving, but the energy was different. They hugged me tighter. They looked me in the eye. They said things like, "You did the right thing," and "You handled that with grace," and "We should have known better." Each comment felt like a small piece of my identity being returned to me. When the yard was almost empty, I walked to my car to grab Jonah's gift bag that he had forgotten. As I turned back toward the house, I saw Nora standing alone near the side gate. Her arms were wrapped around herself, and her face no longer held that proud, confident expression. Instead, she looked lost. She walked a few steps toward me. "Hannah," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "You ruined everything." I shook my head slowly. "No, you ruined it the moment you decided to lie." She looked at me like she wanted to argue, but she had no strength left. "You all turned against me so fast," she said. "After everything I have done for this family." I answered calmly, "You did things for attention, not love. That is not the same." She blinked, trying to pull herself together, but there was nothing left for her to hold on to. Without another word, she walked away toward her sister's car parked near the curb. For the first time since she joined our family, she did not look like the powerful one. She looked like someone who never expected the spotlight to turn against her. Inside the house, Caleb was packing a small suitcase. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were clearer than I had seen in years. "Thank you," he said quietly when I entered the room, "for everything you showed today. I should have listened a long time ago." I placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "It is not too late to fix things. Just focus on Jonah. He needs you." He nodded and tried to smile. Once he and Jonah left with my parents, the house felt strangely empty. I sat on the couch for a moment and let the weight of the day settle in. I did not feel victorious. I did not feel triumphant. What I felt was a deep sense of relief. I had spent years letting Nora shape how others saw me, but today, the truth finally spoke louder. The next morning, my parents invited me over for a proper conversation. They wanted to rebuild trust. They wanted to understand how things went so wrong. They wanted to support me in a way they had not done in a very long time. Seeing them try, seeing them reach for me again, healed something inside me that had been broken for years. Later that afternoon, Jonah ran up to me in the living room and hugged me hard. "I knew you were good," he said. "I always knew." I hugged him back and whispered, "I know, buddy." Hearing that from him meant more than anything else. In the days that followed, Nora stayed with her sister. She did not call. She did not apologize. She did not explain. But honestly, I no longer needed anything from her. The truth had already done what it needed to do. It cleared my name. It repaired my family. It freed me. And for the first time in years, I felt peace. If you're enjoying my stories, make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from.